my name is Andy Jackson, and as you can probably tell, this is the first time I've used Hopin because I wasn't really too sure what was going on. I do see in the top right-hand corner there's sort of 14 people perhaps observing this. So thank you so much for coming along. It's great to see you, or not. I'm an acceleration manager with NatWest, and what that means is I work with entrepreneurs, owner managers of small businesses, small to medium-sized businesses, some startups, but also some who are already turning over multiple millions, to help them to learn, grow, develop, and scale. So I'm part of the NatWest Accelerator proposition, and I've been working with these guys now for probably about 5 years. And prior to that, as a learning consultant, performance coach in corporate businesses, but also in the wider SME community here in Bristol, Trowbridge, Chippenham, Swindon. So I'm very familiar with this local area. One of the things that I have learned over my 15, 20 years almost of working in this environment, and the reason why I feel really well qualified to be able to talk about mindset in these terms today, is that without exception, the success or failure of any project, business, organization, team, whatever it is that you want to apply it to, the success or failure of those things is down to the mindset of the individuals involved, but specifically the mindset and leadership qualities of the person that is in charge of that whole operation. So mindset plays a critical aspect in performance for us as individuals. So what it is I'm going to go through today is we're going to talk a little bit more about the importance of mindset. We're going to talk about growth versus fixed mindset, a concept that may be familiar to a number of you, but certainly it's really significant and important in the way that we think about things. I'm going to help you to understand your own mindset a little bit, and then some tips and tricks in terms of developing a positive, powerful growth mindset. Okay, so let's kick on in. Let me ask you a question, rhetorical question. You don't necessarily need to respond to this. What is mindset? If you were to talk to somebody else about what a mindset is, how would you describe it? Okay, well, what it is that I would say is that it's an established set of attitudes that held by an individual, i.e. held by you, about whatever context you're in. So this could relate to people, goals, situations, events, pretty much everything that you interact with personally, professionally, in terms of you will have a perception of and an attitude towards. And this feeds into your mindset and that generic term that we talk about in terms of, okay, this is our mindset with regard to this thing. It's the same as, it's almost interchangeable in terms of this is our attitude with regard to this thing, the relationship we have, this function that we are responsible for, the skills that we need to be able to develop. We have an attitude or a mindset with regard to each of these things. Let me demonstrate. Okay, so let me introduce you to a couple of the things just to get you thinking about, mindset in these terms. What is your mindset with regard to health? Okay. Now, as a young person, I was in the military. Health wasn't necessarily a major consideration because fitness was something that we did a lot of, working strenuously. It was a natural part of what we did. But there are other people that I know now, and getting later on in life, health has become really important to me, and I'm actually doing things to be able to work on that. And I know there will be people who have been through their own health issues, and so their attitude to health is different. What's your attitude to health? What's your attitude to exercise? Okay, exercise and health inextricably linked. Okay, but in terms of exercise, is it a good thing? I know people that in conversation says, "Well, I've never really been good at exercise," but probably because I've never really done much of it. They say, but it's an attitude that permeates into the extent to which they're prepared to do something about it. Now, there's more in terms of mindset and the way that we think about these things, and we'll go into that. But what's your attitude to these things? What about money? Your attitude to money? Okay, money's the root of all evil, right? but is it just something that helps you measure what it is that you do in business? Is it an enabler? Is it something that provides you with freedom and security in this Western world? Or is it something that just gets in the way? Does it provide happiness? I don't know. Maybe yes, maybe no. But you will have your own perception of these things. What about fire? Fire is an interesting one because fire is life-giving, but it is also destructive. Fire can cleanse, but it can also destroy. It can provide warmth. Okay, fire in the hearth on a really cold winter's evening can be wonderful. Okay, fire out of the hearth can be completely horrible. Okay, and I hope nobody here has been through the kind of situation that perhaps we're all imagining. What about kids? Yeah, kids, rugrats, ankle biters, the wonderful, glorious, most frustrating thing that I've ever done. A lot of people will say that the birth of their children is possibly one of the most meaningful things that they've ever done in their life. But following that, it just proved to be, wonderful on one hand, but horrendously frustrating on the other. But it's kids. It's people work with kids. People don't like kids. There's all sorts of different attitudes towards it. Okay, so the point here is the context itself is neither positive or negative. It's your mindset with regard to each of those things that determines the extent to which you interact with it, how you interact with those things, how you perceive those things, how you talk about things, how you communicate with those things. What about these then? And again, I'm just going to leave those up there for a couple of seconds in terms of, what's your attitude towards the next 3 to 6 months? Are you thinking, oh my God, it's going to be horrendous for coming out of lockdown? Or are you thinking, actually, I'm really looking forward to the next 3 to 6 months, next year? What's your perception of planning? What about the customer? Yeah. To what extent do you like sales and selling? And to what extent do you really engage with the whole concept of really knowing your numbers, whether that be financial or organizational KPIs and statistics within it? Okay, so there are different ways of being able to think about all of these things. Now, again, the way that you think about these things will determine the extent to which you are engaging with them meaningfully and helping you to achieve the things that you want to achieve. So this is the some of the areas or attitudes, if you will, around a power-up mindset. So a NatWest group of qualities and attributes, attitudes, and areas that I work with my entrepreneurs with, the leader managers that I work with. And it's an interesting conversation that I have with them in terms of, so to what extent do you, top left, put the customer at the heart of everything that you do? Who is the customer? What is the customer? Why does the customer exist? And why is that customer your customer? What's the problem that you're solving? Yeah, so interesting conversations there. So to what extent do I learn from failure? To what extent am I always ready to pitch? To what extent do you know your numbers, build a strong network and collaborate? To what extent do you have a really clear vision about what it is that you're ultimately seeking to achieve? Okay, so all of those things in the power-up mindset contribute, impact, underpin the way that you interact with yourself and your business and the customers, and how you are seeking to achieve ultimate growth for yourself, for your business, by providing value to your customers. Okay, so all of these things, focusing on goals, being an effective communicator, leading and motivating team effectively. Okay, these are the things that are really important. So again, what's your attitude towards these things? What's your mindset with regards to these things? Now, a useful way of being able to develop a useful construct around mindset is something called the growth mindset. So it's that fixed versus growth mindset. Now, this is something that, to be honest, it's not new. there is absolutely nothing new in the concept of fixed versus growth mindset. However, it's being grasped by the sort of the performance world, because it really clearly and very simply encapsulates all of the really important stuff when it comes to the way that we think and feel and therefore interact with things. It comes from a child psychologist and educator over in the States called Carol Dweck. She published her works around growth mindset. I think about 12 years ago, or was it 2012? It's about 10 to 12 years ago. And she sort of published her works based on the fact that for decades, she'd been studying why some people, some children succeed while people who are equally talented do not. And over the years, she discovered that people's mindset, their mindset plays a crucial part in this process. And she coined the phrase, the significant difference here is the difference between having a growth mindset or a fixed mindset. Very simply, okay, very simply, a fixed mindset is that mindset that somebody that you might have about in a particular context, that the perspective, character, intelligence that you have, that your creative ability is fixed. Okay, what you see is what you get. This is who I am. I don't seek to change myself because, this is as good as it gets. I'm no good at this sort of stuff. How many people have you ever seen or heard say, well, I'm just no good at maths? My wife says it all of the time, but she's really good at working out numbers and fractions, and she's a midwife, so she deals with drugs and percentages of drugs and drug solutions, all that kind of stuff. She's really good at it, but she keeps telling herself for whatever reason that no good at this, and I don't do that, and I don't like this, and so there are some elements to what she does, and I know what it is that I do, and presumably where you are at the moment as well, in terms of there are some things that character, intelligence, and your ability to be able to impact on stuff is fixed. In these terms, you are not in control. Okay, you're not necessarily in control of the way that you think and feel and interact with these things. You've actually divorced your ability to be able to interact with them because you don't think things can change. Okay, whereas a growth mindset is all about having the perception that you can change, you can grow, you can get better at things through effort, application, and the development of experience. Okay, and the building out of experience. This is very much a mindset where you are in control. You are saying to yourself, okay, so I might not be very good at this, but I can build, I can grow, I can actually get good at this. Yeah. Imagine at a very fundamental level that everything that we did was fixed. Yeah. How would we as people, as children, as young infants ever learn to walk, to talk, to sort of start to interact with the world? Well, we are programmed to be able to go through some of these processes and develop our abilities around that. Okay, it's our interaction with other people and the way that we interpret things in our younger life that then determines the extent to which we are going to think in terms of a growth mindset or a fixed mindset about things. Okay, so this is a really fundamental aspect of what it is that we are all about. Okay, now imagine having a fixed mindset around sales. Okay, imagine having a fixed mindset around your ability to lead. Okay, imagine having a fixed mindset around, the validity or the value of building a team. Okay, well, I'm going to bring people in, but it just won't make any difference because I'm no good at leading people. And besides, I do all the selling here, and it doesn't always go my way, but it's okay. That's not necessarily the kind of mindset that makes a difference. Okay, a growth mindset will apply a different way of being able to think about all this stuff with a view to then really taking on more and developing those things. Okay, one of the things I said earlier in terms of it's contextually specific. A mindset is contextually specific because you might think that you are really good at something, but you are not that good at something else. Okay, and that's absolutely valid and it's absolutely fine. Because we can also start to think in terms of, well, there are some things that we're not good at, and it actually doesn't matter. Okay, I'm not that good at piano or playing an instrument, and to be honest, I'm not that worried about developing that thing, especially in the context of my professional life and professional development. I don't need to learn the piano, so actually, my mindset with regard to that is sort of irrelevant. Whereas if there was something around public speaking, if there was something around presenting that really got in the way of me being able to develop my ability to speak in this environment or in front of a crowd or in an auditorium, that could be quite problematic. Okay, so having a fixed mindset, as demonstrated here around public speaking, can get in the way for a lot of people. In fact, I'm given to understand that statistics are still that public speaking is feared more than death. People would rather die than stand up in front of a crowd. But it's one of those things I work specifically with my entrepreneurs and leaders around, in terms of the ability to be able to have confidence in front of a few people or even a large group of people can be critical to a leader's ability to really impact on the wider team. Developing that level of confidence absolutely comes through application and experience, but it has to be underpinned with that growth mindset that says, I can become better at this. I just need to develop my ability, my skills and abilities, and develop some experience around it. So think of it this way, okay? A growth or fixed mindset, and there is so much more that could be talked about in these terms, but I'm very aware of the time. There's so much more that you can think about in this. In fact, I would recommend that if you're going to do a little bit more research, just go onto YouTube. There are 1,000,001 different videos that will give you more information around fixed versus growth. And there was a great one by Trevor Rogan. Trevor Rogan. It's about 8 minutes long. It just goes through the fundamentals of a fixed versus growth mindset. Loads of great stuff on there, and it should help you to be able to understand a little bit more about it. But think of it this way: if you come across anything that is relevant to your role, it's important that you or your business is able to do this more or better, to be able to grow, to be able to learn, to be able to develop. Okay, you may not be able to do it, but if you just add this one word, it will make all the difference. Yet. I'm not able to do this yet will help just reinforce the fact that with effort and application, you can become better at pretty much anything. I am absolutely bought into the whole concept of anybody is capable of anything if they're sufficiently motivated to want to do it. Okay? Anybody can do anything if they're sufficiently motivated to want to do it. Now, they may not necessarily be able to achieve world-class status because there are other things involved with, being a world-class sprinter, for example. Genetics are involved with that kind of stuff, or a marathon runner, or a climber, or there are some things that we physically or emotionally or psychologically can't do because of the way that we are made up. Okay, I do believe there are limitations in that respect, but there's no reason why anybody can't run a marathon. You might not be able to do it in 2.5 hours, but you can run a marathon. You can absolutely sprint for 100 meters. Might not be able to do it in 10 seconds, but you can absolutely sprint for 100 meters. So there's, are you able to do it? No. Can I do it? Yes. I might not be able to do it yet, but I know I can build myself into it. On a practical level, on a day-to-day basis, think of it in these terms, okay? E plus R equals O, okay? Event plus reaction equals outcome. Okay, so this is something for you to take away and just to think about. It's not the context itself that will determine how you behave. It's how you choose to react or respond. How you choose to react or respond to that event will determine the quality of the outcome. Okay. By way of an example, I was working with a group of people about 12 years ago now, and one of them came to me sort of halfway through a sort of extended program And he said, Andy, I have to let you know, I have to tell you, the work that we're doing together has fundamentally changed my life. And I said, steady on, hold on, where did this come from? Because you don't get that kind of response, that reaction, that don't get the kind of feedback very often. And he said, well, I often get home in the evening and I know I've got work to do. And because it's just the nature of my role, is the nature of my business, I work in the evening. It's just, that's the way it is. And something happened a little while ago, and it just made me stop and think, and because especially the work that we've been doing. And he said, I got home, it had been raining, it was a crap day. I'd had a rubbish response from some of my customers, and things just weren't going well. I didn't sell anything, and I was just feeling really down. I put the key in the door, opened it up, I was soaked to the skin. The kids had just thrown all of their stuff all over the entranceway, and I exploded. Yeah, and because they know to hang their kit up, to be able to sort of put their boots aside, so that everybody else can get in the door. I exploded. He said, and I was tramping through the house, and I had an argument with my wife. My kids were all sort of being all stroppy, and he said it just didn't go well. And one of the exercises that we did previously, he said, as part of the program, just made me stop and think about how I responded to that particular scenario. Okay, my response determined the fact that everybody had a crap evening. We all sat in silence at the dinner table, and nobody sat together, and we're usually quite chatty and friendly. He said, but it didn't happen that night. He said, and that really had a fundamental effect on me. I said, so this is what I now do. He says, when I get home, it doesn't matter what kind of day I've had. It doesn't matter what kind of evening I'm anticipating. If I've got, if I know I've got a whole shed load of work to do, I stick the key in the door, I take a big deep breath, and then I go in. And it doesn't matter if the kids have thrown their coats on the floor. It doesn't matter if I'm wet through. I'm really glad to be home. And I go through and I give my wife a hug and I say hello to the kids. And, once I've established relationships again, I will then ask them to go and clear their stuff up. They know they have to do it, and remind them of some of the expectations that we've already agreed. And he says, I have to tell you, it's fundamentally changed, A, the relationship with my family. And he says, but also, B, I apply the same principles to going to work and meetings with colleagues and, and sales meetings with potential customers. And he says, and it's just been incredible the way I now work my own attitude, my own mindset. So I'm much more ready to get a positive, powerful outcome rather than a crap outcome that I just used to allow to happen. So the point here being, it's very much about how you choose to respond, what your mindset is saying about the event itself that will determine the quality of the outcome. It won't necessarily be the event, the fact that you've just been shouted at by a customer, the fact that it's been raining, the fact that you've got to pull an all-nighter to be able to really get to grips with this next challenge or task that you've got. Okay, how you respond to it's going to make the difference. So to finish this presentation off, I just want to go through a few things, a few tips, a few tricks to help you develop your mindset. Okay, so that you can sort of start to think about the kind of things that you can do regularly on a daily basis, or build into your routine. Number one, look at the language that you use with yourself and others. It's that little voice inside your head, that little voice that's telling you what's going on and how you're responding to stuff. And if you're aware of what that little voice is saying, then you can challenge it and you can change it. You can reframe that language so that it is more positive, more powerful, more growth mindset in and of itself. Take time to stop and think and reflect on your language, on your behavior, on the outcome of particular things that have happened. Okay, in the day, what went well? What was really positive? What was powerful? What did you feel good about? But likewise, what actually didn't go so well? What did you find difficult? Why was that? And then, are the things that you can do differently next time to be able to sort of work things through? Be really clear about your vision. Be clear on your plan. know what it is that you want to achieve, and understand what triggers you. Understand the things that piss you off. Understand the people and the reasons why they get under your skin, and what can you do differently to perhaps develop that relationship. Understand the things that really empower you to do things differently and do more of those things. Enjoy the journey. Have fun, people. There's no point in banging your head against the wall if all you're going to do is injure yourself and damage the wall. So enjoy what it is that you're doing. Apply yourself positively to your environment, the people that you're working with, and have fun. Okay. Learn from the things that don't go well, because there will be things that don't go well. Okay, there'll be things that you think actually that could be significantly different. Well, how can you apply yourself differently so that they are going to become better? And stop making excuses. Take ownership of your attitude. Take ownership over yourself and the way that you respond to things. Think about the language that you use. Are you telling yourself that it won't change, or can you change the way that you think about things so that you can? Okay. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is attitude. If you've got any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. Okay. But before we leave, I just want to shout out for the Entrepreneur Accelerator at NatWest. It's a fully funded program of support. And let's say I work on a one-to-one basis alongside my colleagues to be able to deliver coaching sessions, but also events, learning events and networking to help entrepreneurial leaders to learn, to grow and scale and develop themselves in their business. The application window is opening shortly, and I hope to see you very soon. Thanks ever so much.